Well, after being here, there was a period of time of just learning the room. So I would pull up mixes of projects I had done previously or music that I knew really well in my library. But then I kept finding a consistent issue in the creation or mixing of music. And a lot of it was low end and low mids. At first I wasn't sure if it was because of the room itself or the speakers within the room. And it wasn't until later when I demoed a Trinnov actually, and I could see the graph of what was missing in the room or what was being excited, and that I realized, well, that's what I've been hearing all this time. But it was just frustrating to me that my mixes were not translating. The guy that I bought the studio from had a Trinnov, and one day he was telling me about the Trinnov and how he had a system previous to it and made a switch and how much he loved it, and give it a demo and give it a try. And so I did, and I actually just went ahead and bought one and put the microphone up, and it went through its process, which is a pretty quick process of shooting out the room. And I was amazed before I even listened, just seeing how detailed, like I had spent a lot of time measuring where the speaker should go and getting the heights accurate and everything. And the Trinnov told me that my left speaker was a 1/4 inch lower than my right speaker and 1/8 of an inch further away. And I said, no, it's wrong. And I got the tape measure out and measured, and it was right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's pretty intelligent. Looking at the graphs and seeing a visual representation of what I was hearing. And then the first preset that the Trinnov, rendered, I pressed play, and I was shocked at the world of difference and the clarity and the definition in the stereo field. The center wasn't, kind of murky any longer, and I was sold. I had actually some of my peers tell me that they were against digital processing for room correction. There's a lot of opinions floating around the internet, but I've always found, no matter what the product is, the best test is to get it in your room and try it. I needed to hear a before and after and be able to switch it in and out. And so, if I found that after using the product for a while and my mixes were getting worse, or they were translating less, then I wouldn't have one. But, I think, like people say, it's a little corny, the proof's in the pudding, they say, and it worked for me. I would say there were 4 of my professional colleagues that, in theory, were against it, and when I told them that I bought a Trinnov, they were sort of rolling their eyes at me. And that was maybe 3 years ago, and now 3 of those 4 people own either Trinnov or some kind of room correction. All I know is that I went from hoping and guessing and then going out to the car and listening on headphones and all kinds of hoops that I had to jump through. I popped on the Trinnov, it corrected all of the phase, the time alignment, the EQ, and then the first thing I mixed after that translated everywhere immediately because I could now actually hear what I was doing. I mean, it's much like, how good of a job would you do vacuuming your rug if the lights weren't on, right? You can't see what you're doing. It's the same thing as like all of a sudden the lights were on and I could hear in that range. Once I had the system, it affects every decision I make. From pre-production, listening to a work tape, listening to iTunes, listening to music and making judgments on what I'm hearing in the marketplace. I mean, everything I listen to goes through the Trinnov. So my workflow is completely different. I feel like my focus can be a lot more just sort of laser focused into what's true to the audio. Since getting the Trinnov, like I've told a lot of my friends about it and just said, listen, I would go back to what I would call good professional speakers and keep the Trinnov. rather than having this $20,000 pair of speakers and not having it. And I have a professionally tuned room. If I could have had the Trinnov in my last room, I did what I could to treat it, but it's maybe the best investment that I've made because it impacts every single decision, not just when I happen to record with a U67 or I happen to record a vocal, which I'm not doing, 8 hours a day, but I am listening 8 hours a day. So it's the last item that I would ever depart with, or ever part with. I would say it becomes more evident in a room like this. The more refined your room is, the more you can pinpoint the weaknesses. And so even still, having a great room, having great speakers, the Trinnov still took me, I'm not talking like 2 or 3%, I would say a good 25%. It took me to where now I'm not questioning or guessing. I just would never go back to guessing without a Trinnov.